Hi, I'm Aubrey.
Hi, I'm Kathleen. We're two friends having a good time.
I happen to be a Christian, and that's okay.
And I happen to be an atheist, and that's okay.
Welcome to the Christian and the Atheist podcast.
Let's dive in.
Hey guys, have you left a review for our podcast yet? Head over to wherever you listen to your podcast and do that right now.
And follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Christian and the Atheist, and TikTok at Christian and Atheist.
Did you know that the Christian and the Atheist podcast is on Patreon?
When you join our Patreon community, you can get ad-free episodes and access to video chat with us once a month for 10 minutes to talk about episode topics and more.
Head on over to patreon.com/Christian and Atheist to sign up now. Coming up on the Christian and the Atheist podcast.
The kind of Christian I was makes the kind of atheist I am. But I can remember the millisecond I was a true blue Christian, and the millisecond it was like, wait a minute. We could all go up to heaven and be nothing but ancient Egyptian gods staring at us.
They've written me off as lost to, darkness, which, cool, I guess.
We don't need bad reasons to be good. There's already good reasons to be good.
Welcome, everybody, to the Christian and the Atheist podcast. Today, we have a special guest, and Kathleen's going to tell you about them.
We're so excited. Today, we have our friend David Fitzgerald with us. He is a researcher, an author, a public speaker, a novelist. He is an activist. So we're thrilled to have him with us and have a great discussion with him today. Hi, David.
Hi there, guys.
Welcome.
Great to talk to you again.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
How are you this morning?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
So,
I'm very, very jazzed about today's show.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it for a long time.
I am so pumped, and I appreciate you reaching out to us.
Yeah.
You found us on Facebook, and you're like, oh my goodness, I want to know more. And so I was like, of course. Had no idea who you were. No offense. Sorry. As a Christian, I don't read atheist
No, I'm
books.
super famous. Didn't you hear the intro?
You really are, though, and that's what's funny, because what was funny was...
So my husband, my husband has read multiple books of yours in years past, and when I told him that we were, going to interview you, he had a full fangirl geek out moment.
It was
and was
so
so
funny.
Excited.
I got to see part of it.
It was
and
so
I was
cute.
like, is this even your husband right now? I don't know this side of him. He's like, oh my gosh, and got the books.
He went and got him and
he's
holding
like,
him. He's like, look,
these are the ones. And he's like, these are so great. And just going on and on. It was so funny. And I was like, yeah, I have his phone number. We're friends.
It was really
good.
cool. He was really excited, and he's going to be probably pretty nerdy about it, but that's okay.
So can you tell us where you're at right now?
I'm in, you mean where
you're living in
where you
currently?
from?
Where I'm living. I've lived in San Francisco for 30 years, but right before the pandemic started, we moved about 5 hours north to a town called Eureka on the coast.
In California.
In Bigfoot country.
Ooh.
Lots of redwoods.
That's so great, though. I love that. Cool. I love all the, what I've seen of the redwoods and stuff. I want to go visit California.
It really is an amazing part of the world.
Yeah.
It's a trip.
Nice.
Very cool.
So can you tell us some of the books that you have wrote?
Yeah, tell us some of your books.
Oh, they're behind him. We're zooming, but you guys don't get to see this.
This is probably the book I'm most famous for in atheist circles.
It's called
Nailed 10 Christian Myths That Show Jesus Never Existed at All. And once I wrote that was in 2010. I wrote a book called The Mormons by David Fitzgerald.
That happens.
It's so funny because...
Yeah, that's the one my husband read. Those two are the ones my husband read. Yeah.
I think you'll like it too.
Yeah.
I think you'll like it too.
Yeah.
Me? Or her?
Probably me.
Kathleen, yeah.
Probably the
You'll
Mormon.
Okay. So those are the two. Is there any more?
Yeah, and then after that, I wrote this. This is really one book, but it's in 3 volumes because that's the way things work when you start writing a small book and it becomes a huge book. So it's called Jesus, Mything, and Action, Volume 1, 2, and 3.
Nice.
And basically, when I wrote Nailed, I expected all the Christians to hate it because, that's not special.
Sure.
But I was shocked how many atheists were like, oh, no, there was a real guy named Jesus. He just wasn't the Son of God, blah, blah, blah.
Really?
And it's like, it's no skin off my nose if there was a guy.
Right.
But I really don't think there was. And so I wrote that book, Jesus, Myth, in Action, to answer all the arguments I was getting from our fellow atheists.
Right.
But the funny thing about that is, like, I've written 4 books on the Jesus historicity question, 1 book on Mormonism. I know way more about the Jesus thing than Mormonism. And yet all the atheists, like, they may go, I don't know about the nail thing, but Mormons, that's really good. It's really well researched. It's like, I'm not even an expert on Mormonism, and I get.
You know what though? Even Mormons aren't experts on Mormonism. There's a lot. There's a lot to there.
That said, I did do I don't know if you guys know Bryce Blankenagel, who does Naked Mormonism podcast.
Yes, I do.
He and I did a series on the Myth Vision podcast series with Derek Lantenberg on the secret history of Mormonism.
Yes.
And boy, you love that. Both of you love that. Because I swear, if they're looking for a new Game of Thrones, they should go for early Mormon history.
It really is like the wildest show you could imagine. It's got
sex, violent sex, sexy violence. It's got
pretty much all of it. Treasure hunting and murder and intrigue and like
multiple
crazy.
lives.
Oh yeah, secrecy and it's nuts. Wow. It is nuts.
Yeah, I think when they pitched it to us, we said, I guess we could do 5, 6 episodes of that. We did like 29 episodes, or 30 episodes before we even got to Utah.
And that's only half the history, because then you get to Utah and you've got all kinds more crazy. Yeah. So it'd be fascinating to listen to. Yeah.
So what would you call your passion for writing your books? What's the drive behind writing what you wrote?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, it's funny, and I think Kathleen can relate to this too. I was raised Southern Baptist, and as we all know, Southern Baptists are the one true faith. They don't have any truck with like speaking in tongues or TV evangelists. They're very no nonsense.
Yeah.
So I think that's the kind of Christian I was makes the kind of atheist I am. I still, since I was taught to defend the truth, especially, it's like, well, yeah, but this isn't true, is it? And so now, it's not like I had any religious trauma, and I have friends who did have like really bad religious trauma, and I have a lot of love for my church family growing up. We're all still very close. Yeah, I couldn't. There came a point where I just could not be a Christian anymore. I mean, if you want, I can give you into my deconversion story.
I do want to know that. That was our next question. Yep. So, what got you there? I want to know what got you there. Yeah.
So yeah, I was raised Southern Baptist, and all my early years were just super Christian, fully believed it. Everybody thought I was going to be a pastor. And it wasn't until college that that all changed. And the way it changed was there was a girl, like most of the stories I start out with. And the way we would flirt with each other is we would have theological arguments with each other. And so, she would always give the hippy dippy Renaissance fair pagan-y answer. And one day we're having this back and forth at lunch, and she says, well, Dave, the Hindu religion is like 3,000 years older than Christianity, right? And I was all set to jump down her case. And before I could get a word out of my mouth, it was like, hey, wait a second. I have no idea if Hinduism is older than Christianity or not.
Right.
Turns out it is, by the way.
Yeah.
But the realization that I was about to say something that I didn't know was true or not.
Right.
Boom, hit me like a bolt from the blue. And I was like, oh my God, I'm just like the Mormons and the Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm just parroting what I taught. And it's like, I have friends who are ministers and preachers and missionaries, and they talk about how there was this slow drag, of doubt, and like doubts just kept building up and building up over years. But I can remember the millisecond I was a true blue Christian, and the millisecond it was like, wait a minute, whoa.
Wow.
Because as soon as I realized I was doing that, Christianity never felt real, ever.
Okay.
And it stunned me that I'd never asked myself that basic question, is what I believe true?
Right.
It never even crossed my mind to question that. And once that happened, like I said, it's like Christianity felt obviously fake. It just is like, it never made sense for me after that. You know, we'd been taught to defend the truth, you know, like pit bulls and, you know, and truth, history on all this. And it's like, wow, this is not true. And that's, I think, why I'm such the atheist author that I am, the researcher. It's not because I had a traumatic upbringing, but it was enough that they told me lies and I believed them. And they obviously believed them too. And it's like, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And but it was funny because for like the first year, I was floating in this fog. It was like, well, what's keeping me safe? I don't have an army of angels behind me anymore. And there's no God with a super plan for my life that's going to go, you know, where's that going? And another funny thing was, this cracked me up. When I was a Christian, I was like the Terminator. It's like, oh, you're saved. Oh, no, you're going to hell. You're saved. You're going to hell. And all of a sudden, I got this Christ-like love for everybody.
Isn't that funny?
Like, yeah, we're all humans. We all belong here. We're not, you know, we evolved here. The universe wasn't made for us. We were made by it for it, you know?
Yeah.
And it endlessly fascinates me now how our universe and just how wonderful it is to be human and how awful and terrible and fantastic and marvelous it can be.
Yeah. So what are your beliefs now as an atheist? How do you look at the world? Because I know sometimes people ask me this question and I give my answer and they go, oh, you're not an atheist. And I go, yeah, no, I am.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
no, I
I've
am.
had so many people say, but you're so nice. How can you be an atheist?
Yeah.
It's funny because I think online when I'm posting something on Facebook, you can't get tone on Facebook.
Yeah.
And so you just say, just saying, Christianity is all bullshit and it's complete lie, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
No offense, but blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so I think when people hear me talk,
Sorry.
I'm just saying. And to be fair, I do it with all the other religions too. I'm not just picking on Jesus.
Yeah. Well, that's nice.
I'm an equal opportunity blasphemer.
That's right.
That's hilarious.
But I mean, it's given me a lot of sympathy for where religious people are coming from.
Yeah.
Even like, you know, horrible people like Mormons and Unitarians, you know.
Well, he's like saying it. Like, she'll never say it.
No, because all of my family is still Mormon and listen. And so I have to be very, you're totally good. I tend to be very reserved in my harsher opinions about Mormonism just to try and save some feelings.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. And I totally get it.
But yeah.
So I'm like, I bet it's really freeing for you right now to hear that.
Great time.
And I gotta say, Mormonism fascinates me because as a Christian, I was fascinated by it. As an atheist, I'm fascinated by it because it's like steampunk Scientology.
Yeah.
It's just this never-ending well of wild, wacky,
I talk
amazing.
About it's interesting you brought up Scientology and Mormonism together. Basically, the way the world looks at Scientology right now, because Scientology started in the 60s, 70s, and it's the way we look at it is like, oh, this crazy group of people with crazy ideas, and they think aliens and nuts, and isn't this nutso?
Not like mainstream Christianity, which is perfectly rational.
But that's the way the contemporary world looked at the Mormons when they first started in the 1840s and 30s and whenever, you know. So that's when people ask me a lot now about Mormonism and what was it like and what did you used to think and what do you think now and all that. And that is one of the things I tell people is imagine the way you look at Scientology. That's how the Missourians looked at the Mormons. Imagine. And
even worse, it's more like Al Qaeda, really.
Yeah, it's not far off. Imagine.
And I was going to say, there was open warfare of them killing each other back then. So it was a total holy war back then.
It was a lot.
I had no idea.
That early history of Mormonism is, it's just mind blowing.
Yeah.
It's hard to root for somebody because you can't blame the Missourians and you can't blame the more, it was just really a lot of bad blood on both sides.
Yep. Even coming from the background that I have, looking back, you still recognize that the bulk of the Mormon church is good people trying their best. They just think the way they think because that's the way they've been raised. There's a few people honestly, at the top who are pulling the wool or dishonest.
Yeah.
But
and honestly, that's how I feel about all religious people now. There's a great quote that says religion makes good people better and bad people worse.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I like to use the argument that Jesus didn't like religion either. So that's just
if he existed.
That's what I was going to say. I'm super interested.
You know how I feel about that.
Well, you know what? Let's put a pin in the Jesus thing for a second. Because something really interesting has happened this last year.
Okay.
I did some talks on the evolution of religion, world religions, like all the top 10 world religions. And it was fascinating to see all these different stages that religions, no matter which religion you're talking about, no matter where in history, they all seem to go through these similar stages until they get to a certain point, and then they kind of vary off. But the thing that was most fascinating for me was when I wrote Nailed, the most interesting side effect of the last 20 years of doing this research into the historicity for Jesus is how many Buddhists would come up to me and say, oh yeah, we're having the same debates in our circles whether Buddha existed or not. And ex-Muslims coming up to me and say, yeah, we're having the same debates on whether Muhammad existed or not. And that just blew my mind.
Yeah.
And so I started doing, I was doing this talk on evolution religion, and I thought, you know what, I should just check and see what kind of backstory all the top 10 religions have and see if there's a pattern here or anything. It turns out, yeah, there's a big old pattern. Like every single one of them either has no founder figures like Hinduism or Buddhism or Shintoism, or they have a founder figure, but we can't agree like when he lived or what he did or say. And it's like, and the closer you get to him, the more dodgy his backstory gets.
Yeah.
And they're all like that. And it's like, none of that has to be true. It's like, you know, I'd be fine saying, yeah, I don't think Sikhism or Hinduism or is true. But it's weird to me that they all seem to have started with a mythical founder figure. And all of them seem to start as like, well, yeah, it's like the prophet figure. And to be fair, it's not just religion either. It's like Esau, same deal. Solomon becomes like this, you know, magnet for anything wise. Oh yeah, Solomon said that, you know, and actually we see that with Jesus too. And like, you know, all these things get attributed to him after the fact.
Right.
That kind of dovetails back to what got me started on the whole Jesus thing, because 25 years ago, you know, never even crossed my mind to question if Jesus was real or not. It's like, duh, of course there is Jesus, you know, who started Christianity. And it wasn't until I was going through the Gospels and trying to sort out, okay, which one is giving us the real Jesus and which ones are the imaginary embellishment Jesus, you know, because when you read all four, they're not telling the same story a lot of times. And they're not even, their Jesuses have different personalities.
Yeah.
And it's like,
the timeline's different. Like, the story is different. All of it's different.
Yeah. And it's like the birth story, for instance, like in Matthew and Luke, they are not telling the same story at all. Yeah. At all. They're completely different stories with different feels and different things going on at different times. They completely contradict each other. It's amazing we've been able to mash them up into one story done at, you know, elementary school pageants and things like that.
Sunday school.
And like our first Jesus comes from Mark, and Mark's Jesus is so low rent, no frills, fallible human guy. He wasn't born God. He gets adopted by God at his baptism, and he becomes exalted. He becomes promoted to God because he was so faithful. He died on the cross for us. And when you read that story through that mindset that Mark's giving us, then the fact that like as soon as he gets adopted, he gets thrown in the wilderness to be tempted by Satan for 40, you know, for his probational period, you know, that makes sense. Then he's not just slumming on earth. It's like, so how do you tempt the Son of God? It's like, oh, all the kingdoms of the world, this could be yours. Like, no one's going to fall for that. He's God. The Garden of Gethsemane story is so much more poignant when you think this is a human guy who doesn't know what's going to happen next, but he knows it's going to hurt real bad, you know, and he's doing it because God wants him to do it, not because he's expecting anything after the fact. that's a lot more poignant to me than the stories that we get later from Matthew, from Luke, especially John. John, his Jesus is like Superman right out of the box. It's like he might have a teacher that says, "I am God," It's like, how do you not get stoned for blasphemy? Like right at the beginning of his career, because he doesn't even try to hide it. And when he is crucified, it's to prove that he's God. Not, it's very wild to me. All the different takes when you look at them and don't try to blend them all together, but look what they're saying that's different from the others.
The individual versus each other is,
Yeah. And it's like, you can tell that Matthew and Luke, for instance, are totally copying Mark's gospel, but they don't think it's perfect. They make some corrections. Matthew makes a lot of corrections to Mark's mistakes, and Luke tends to copy them. There's lots of reasons, and I talk about these in the books, of the literary aspects that make us, how we know how it started with Mark.
Right.
It became taken in these different directions by Matthew and Luke, and how John is completely going on. And those are just the four that made it into the Gospels. We've got all these Christian writings in the 2nd century that even get wilder and wiggier.
Yeah.
So much so that, like, we've got this thing called the Gospel of Peter, where Jesus comes out of the tomb and these 250-foot tall angels are there, and he comes out, he's 500 feet tall.
What?
And then the cross comes out of the tomb and starts talking to people.
See, I've heard of the Gospel of Peter, but I've never read it or heard what was in it. That's wild.
And in its day, it was a much more popular gospel than the Gospel of Mark. We have 3 times as many copies of the Gospel of Peter as we do of Mark. Another thing is we have the impression that this is a gospel according to Mark, gospel according to Matthew, gospel, they all set out to write their own gospel, which they did, but they were setting out to write the one true gospel. So we're lucky we even have Mark, that we have it at all. Yeah, and Luke starts out his gospel by saying, so many people are writing gospels right now. It seemed to me to be a good idea to go check out the stories that came down to our generation and get the real facts.
Right.
And then he steals Matthew and Mark's story, basically.
He's he's got most of it, but I think this one's off.
Yeah, but he's the only one who even pretends to be writing a history. So Christianity's not true, and that's just the way it is. And that's, doesn't mean you're not a nice person. But.
It's so funny. So we just recently recorded with a Christian guy, and now I know how you felt, and not in a bad way. Please know this does not mean anything bad at all. But in the fact that, when I'm talking with a Christian speaker person, we're on the same level and agreement. And then you two are, and it's beautiful to watch for the two of you and have that, and then have my opinions on it differently. Maybe not differently, but I don't know. I'm just I can't explain my Christianity as 100% fact, even though I'm supposed to be standing behind it according to the Bible. I'm not supposed to question it. Even I have questions all day.
Yeah. But and the fact is, she and I both can relate to you because we've both been there.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah. And there's a mutual respect here. I have so much respect for both of you. And it's just funny to listen to the two of you guys and sit here and be like, if you ask me a question, I'm like, pay attention. You're like, I'm trying my best. But I am. But I'm also like, wow, what?
Yeah.
So
before I forget, I just want to say how amazing this is what you guys are doing.
Thank
I
you.
love this so much.
Thank
and
you
I'm
so much.
delighted you let me come on the show.
Of course.
Yeah. Likewise.
Christians and atheists talking together, that's one of my passions. It's
Yeah.
I always think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I haven't found an issue with talking with you or her, especially with her. But now with you, as you're talking, I'm like, well, I don't know that I agree with your terminology, but I can also be mature enough to say, in your opinion, this is what you think.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So
And
I'm not taking it.
I should preface everything I say by that.
No, you shouldn't.
You're fine.
You shouldn't
You're
have
fine.
to. And
Yeah.
we're honestly, as we're mature people.
Yeah.
And to get defensive shows immaturity, in my opinion. And so I'm I'm just like, okay, this is interesting. This is like a really like, this is how grown-ups have conversations that have good, like, you know what I mean? Like good, like communication. And I don't have to get upset. Like you're talking about Jesus not being real. That's your opinion. And oh my gosh, you're so allowed to have that.
Yeah.
For me to say you're not is silly. So I don't know if Jesus was real, but I'm gonna go with he was, and then like he's my homeboy. We're good.
Well, you know what? Let me just play devil's advocate for a minute.
Okay. Like this is like I'm like flashing back to Brandon. Brandon, your husband
My
does this.
husband loves this.
I'm like, okay.
Maybe he learned it from you.
Hi to Brandon earlier, by the way.
Say
we
it.
are friends on Facebook, so we're not complete strangers to each other.
Yeah. So go ahead, play devil's advocate.
Well, I was going to say, keep in mind, before I moved from San Francisco, I would go to a lot of churches, be asked to speak at churches, be asked to speak to Christian youth groups that come up to the Bay Area. So
as an atheist?
As an atheist. And it's like, yeah, exactly. They would take their kids up to the Bay Area to like go check out California Baptist College and talk to an atheist, these kind of things. And so I got used to the weirdness of standing in front of a group and saying, so either I'm wrong and you're right, or you're wrong and I'm right, but there's no way we're both right. And just getting it out of the way, just clearing the air that way. Exactly. And it was so nice just to say, and this is why I feel the way I do this way.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's sorry, go ahead.
No,
I was just going to say, I think nowadays, and especially in these hot topics and these things that people feel so passionately about, that the idea that I may be wrong and someone else who has opposing views may be right is almost so stressful that people get all up in arms. And I think that's part of what we're trying to do is show it's okay if one of us is wrong. We don't know which one it is. We can't tell.
Could be both of us.
We have no clue.
We could all
three be wrong.
Aliens. It's aliens.
We could all go up to heaven and be nothing but ancient Egyptian gods staring at us.
And we're like, well, I guess
you're stressing me out.
But it's okay. That's the thing is like, there's no way to know for sure until we die. And at that point,
what's it matter?
We each have our own views and ideas and, we've studied and we've researched or whatever. And we have what we feel is true. And in the meantime, the best we can do is be kind to one another and try to help each other and learn from each other.
Yeah,
that's all
exactly.
We can do.
And one thing, I do want to point out another thing is you said as soon you felt the millisecond from going Christian to atheist and you felt more Christ-like with quotations. So that's what I want Christians to hear is it's like there's a freedom that atheists have now to love thy neighbor as
the truth will set you free. Yes.
That's
be
not
a better
in the Bible,
Christian,
is it? I don't know.
By becoming atheist.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is it's like my experience with Kathleen, her atheism, she's more Christ-like than a lot of people that I know that are Christian. And
she probably knows the Bible better than a lot of Christians you know
do. For the amount of years I spent, guys, you don't even know.
Oh, you paid for it.
She's helped me so many times with that.
Yeah. That's something I've always been curious about too, because I know as a Mormon, you were dragged at ungodly hours before school every morning to go to Mormon extra school. So how much of that was Bible study and how much of it was Book of Mormon study? Or was it something else completely?
So we did the way, at least it's sometimes done differently, different locations. In Utah, a lot of times it's release time where it's during the school day. It's like an elective, one of your classes. Whereas, you get
to go to Mormon class in high school, right?
Whereas in Oklahoma, we aren't offered that. So I got up and I went at 6 a.m. before school every day. So starting in high school, starting in 9th grade, so 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. So 9th grade was Book of Mormon, 10th grade was Old Testament, 11th grade was New Testament, that thing. And so we would do the whole year, we would study one section. And so I did do 2 full Bible years, one of Old Testament, one of New Testament, cover to cover, King James Version. I still have a good amount of like things memorized and like
nice.
You know, a lot of it. And of course, this is coming through a Mormon lens, so there's a lot of you know, I'm sure there's a lot of misconceptions, but the fact of the matter was our main textbook for that year was the Old Testament itself, just plopped in front of your lap. So
I'm so
and
sorry.
In King James, no less.
Yes.
Yeah.
In King
6 o'clock in the
James.
morning. Can you imagine anything more
yes,
horrible?
with no
I
coffee,
Oh,
none whatsoever.
Right.
So
Oh, my
yeah,
goodness.
I did that, and
as-
I had 100% attendance because I knew that if you had 100% attendance with that and got a good grade in that class in that course, you got a higher chance of getting into BYU, which is where I wanted to go to school. And
I thought you were going to say the
oh no. I already knew that I was going to be on the lower rungs of that. Even then, I was like, yeah, I'm not kidding myself here. I just want to get out. I want to get out of Oklahoma. I want to go to this university where all my friends are going. That's where we're going. So yeah, on days that I was sick and stayed home from actual high school, I still went to seminary before school. 100%.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
Scary.
insane.
Scary. Scary. I think you'll like the book I'm working on right now. It's Sex and Violence in the Bible.
Ooh.
And everything until now has been pretty much New Testament, but Old
Testament
man,
is chock full of it.
chock full of some really mind-blowing stuff.
Yes. Yeah. There's a couple of you know, Bible stories that, especially Old Testament, that we would skip over in seminary.
That's what my book doesn't do.
Because it was inappropriate.
Yeah.
Our teachers would be like, you know,
C-17. Yeah, maybe not so much the Philistine foreskins. And
maybe this isn't what we need to
ripping the
discuss.
children apart.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
But we did have to still read it on our own time. We just weren't going to discuss it in class.
Oh, that's something. Oh, the questions you must have had. Oh, young baby Kathleen.
Yep.
Must have gone through her head.
Her brain was reeling all the time.
Well, don't you like remember reading stuff as a kid and not understanding it and just being like, whatever, whatever, it's fine.
You're like, well, I guess I'll figure that out someday.
Maybe I was the only one.
I was never. I was more like compartmentalized. It's like, I'm sure Pastor Smith knows what that means. We'll come back to that later.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
And
so I remember watching a Christian video over Esther. And then reading it as an adult and being like, I'm having issues with this.
It's a wild story.
This is actually really disgusting and
Yeah.
upsetting.
Oh, yeah.
And she was being thrown into, like, basically a really sick situation and then said she was born for this. I have questions.
And, you know, it just occurred to me, you guys are the perfect ones to ask this because it's like, as a dude reading the New Testament, Old Testament, it's like things will go right. Oh, no. Yeah, that's fine. That's all well and good. Women do not get a good shake. Even the good guy.
No.
Yeah.
No, you got Ruth and Ruth and Naomi.
Which,
Ruth and
let's
Naomi,
be real.
It's beautiful, but it's also effed up too.
They had a much.
When they were together.
They had a much deeper relationship than we all learned in Sunday school.
Have you seen my talk on sex and violence?
No,
it's called
I'm interested.
The Weird Ass Morality of the Bible, Sexy Violence, Violent Sex.
Yes.
I talk about that very thing. And you know what's funny is because the deeper I go into like Old Testament stories like this, and even New Testament too, but it's like you'll hit the story and it's like, oh, I see what's really going on.
Oh, interesting.
And yet you go a little deeper and it's like, oh, and this is fiction too. It's like, no, these stories are even true.
Yeah.
Well,
see, that's my viewpoint is this is all a compilation of stories, folktales that have been put together and then claimed as true for so many years. And so it makes me wonder, some of these stories, why on earth are we including them still? Like the story of Elisha where he sicks a bear on a bunch of little kids because they call him bald. Why? Why is this in there?
Right. And the thing that's blown my mind lately, the more I get into Old Testament studies, is it seems like the Old Testament is not as old as we say it is.
Really?
It's not. It was not written back in the time of Moses. It was not written back in the time of David and Solomon. And like everything we know about the time of David, nothing archaeologically matches up what they're saying is happening there.
That is
so there's
something
all
I
these
had
anachronisms.
heard.
Yeah. So it's what we think of as the Old Testament I mean, you're right. There's collections of really old stuff in there, but mostly it was put together like after the Babylonian captivity.
Yes.
So it's like, hundreds of years, 300 to 1,000 years younger than we've always thought. At least I've always thought.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just say this. I'm a terrible Christian because...
what? Honestly, I think bad Christians and bad Muslims are the hope for humanity, honestly.
Thank you. I'll live off of that specifically because I have not read... I'm trying to read the Bible from, all the way. I haven't read it all the way through. I was born and to this day still have ADHD. And so if it's not interesting enough, you can't pull me in. And so I've been going to church my whole life.
So
I have read the whole Bible, kind of. And I've also been going to
probably heard
the gist of fluffy it. Like the videos with Esther looking like this gorgeous queen, and she's got all these embellishments, and because she was nice to this guy,
in a concubine sort of way.
Yes.
Anyways, so it's just kind of like, so I will say, like, I think my Christianity is really rooted in my belief in God and the relationship that I have with God within me. Because I am questioning Jesus stuff. And not necessarily, like, if Jesus wasn't real, I'm okay with that. I'm still going to claim him as the Son of God and still, like, go off of the beliefs, like, or what he taught and stuff, because that's some beautiful stuff. But, like...
What? Let's talk about that, because that's really fascinating to me. It's like purely hypothetical. If there was no Jesus, what parts of Christianity would you still hang on to?
Right.
Because it's like, I think, what kind of Christian am I now that I'm not a Christian anymore?
Right. There you go. Okay. Ooh. So, but no, as far as my thing is like being that good person that sees someone who needs help and is like, okay, well, let's help them. I'm like, I almost feel like some of the Bible, like, okay, if these stories weren't true, what the hell are they trying to tell us? You know what I mean? So basically, bottom line, don't be an asshole,
basically.
And help people. And if your brother is banging the neighbor's wife, maybe you should be like, hey,
maybe
probably you shouldn't.
I thought you were going to go with the beam out of your own eye before you get the speck out of your brother's eye. Yours is better.
Thank you.
Both are technically correct, though.
I mean, and I'm like, tread lightly with telling other people they're sinning, because if we truly believe in the Holy Spirit, won't the Holy Spirit do that for them? You know what I mean? So that's what I tell people whenever we talk about, like, homosexuality. You guys, calm down. It's okay. We believe in the mighty God of the universe. Wouldn't he have already struck down half the universe if this was such a big ass issue? Because it's not.
If this was such a problem, wouldn't he take care of it? It's clearly not a problem. Calm down.
And it's like, why would he make so many gay people? And gay animals too. It's not just humans.
It's
this
nature.
Is nature.
So it's like, that's another thing. It's like, so I prayed and I prayed and I prayed for years over the gay situation and being like, God, it's in the Bible. It says this is wrong. And I don't understand. Why would you have this written in the Bible and allow people to believe this? And I kept feeling like God was saying to me, there's a really big picture here that you aren't seeing. And there's a really big picture here. And I was like, what the frick is this picture? And I started realizing it was translated really poorly.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's for sure. And sometimes deliberately so.
Yes.
I'll just put that out
there
too.
You go.
But I have so much respect for Christians who see that they cut through all the dogmatic bullshit and say, well, this is supposed to be about love. So are we showing that love? And like some people, like my Aunt Shirley, she shows that love. It's some people, like my grandma,
I have one too. She's crazy. She's Southern Baptist. The homegirl can't hang. She is not the people we need to be having talking in church.
She's not listening to this, though. It's okay.
No. We love her.
She's doing her best. She's trying her best.
And it's the thing. She was raised by, this nonsense too. These things are
well, to be honest, down. So was I. But I, as an adult, look at this and say, what in the world are we doing? And are you guys really talking to God? Because I'm not getting the same message over here.
So you your ADD is really a blessing, I think, in a lot of ways, because Dave Christian was very Pharisaic. That's a stereotype in the Bible, but you know where I'm coming from. He was like, the Bible says this, nope,
Yeah.
But if I have not love, it's just, what's the verse? Clanging gong or
this clanging gong in the wind or something crazy funny.
I don't think I know that one.
No, like
it's something.
There's
Paul
a
says.
song. There's a song to it too that was recently written. It's beautiful. That's a beautiful, beautiful Bible verse. I wish I could pull it up.
Hold on, I'll find it.
If I could speak in language of the earth and of angels, but I do not love others, I would only be a noisy gong.
Yeah.
Or a clanging cymbal. It's 1 Corinthians 13.
Yeah.
I always pull up, whenever we do this, I always pull up King James because that's what I'm used to. And I like to compare them in my brain and be like, oh, okay. Yeah.
It's such...
It's the same thing.
I'll read the whole thing because I want to read the Bible.
Okay, let's do.
This is a beautiful verse, and I'm so glad you brought it up. This is where I'm live. This is what seeps through my soul. Okay, if I had the gift of prophecy, and if I understood all of God's secret plans and possessed all knowledge, and if I had such faith that I could move mountains but did not love others, I would be nothing. If I gave everything I have to the poor and even sacrificed my body, I could boast about it. But if I didn't love others, I would have gained nothing. It's like, and then it goes into love is patient, love is kind. We don't have to get crazy. But but
that is a beautiful chunk of the Bible.
That is what God is. And you guys gotta get people that don't love fully, they just bits and pieces that they think is right. It's like, but I do have a small space where I cannot allow love, and it's for certain types of people.
Well, I mean, there's like neo-Nazis. I love you so much.
Exactly.
Or, hate the sinner, love the sin. I mean, that's reverse that. Like that. Reverse it.
I know
it's that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's stupid, but
going back to that verse, I feel like if that was the actual baseline of what the Christian church is today, I would have no issue with it. If that's what most Christians...
That's what it is to me, and I feel like, and you say, I'm like, you're right. It's not every church is believing like this, and I'm like, but I live in Never Never Land.
You know what? I would go to Aubrey's church, the Church of Aubrey, the Pastor Aubrey's church.
I've said,
welcome, we're here.
Said it before,
this is my church.
I've said it before. Aubrey has told me like her version of the way she views God, the way she views, whatever power is out there. And it's a beautiful idea. And I'm going, hey, if that's what I was taught, maybe I'd still be religious,
Do you guys have, I know if it's in Tulsa, there's a thing called Sunday Assembly or Oasis. And basically, it's not an atheist church, but it's a church where everybody could come and nobody,
Interesting.
They have like
there's a Unitarian church that says that, but I've never been, and
we want to go. We're gonna go try it out, see what.
I think you guys can dig it.
Yeah.
We're gonna try to get a hold of the pastor. Is that what you call that? The head honcho.
Yeah.
And have him on the podcast. Yeah, there you go. I think there's a lot of things that are really crappy in the Bible. Like you guys talk, like Sodom and Gomorrah, is that the thing with the angel that shows up?
Yeah.
And that's weird. And you were talking about like, what about the God that like totally took out nations? And I'm like, well, listen, guys, I don't think so. These are stories. Are they real?
No.
And why would we like these are human beings are writing this, and I'm truly like, I have this supernatural feeling within myself and a light, and I call it God, and that's what I work from. And I feel like she has it and you have it, but it's atheism for you guys that y'all are calling it, and that it's all working together in some kind of way. I'm just calling mine Christianity because that's what I'm holding on to, and this is where I find my community. But I'm also finding community in you.
Yeah.
So
let me pose it, because that's something I used to tell when I talk to Christians. It's like most Christians I know have good, solid, rational reasons for being Christians that have nothing to do with Christianity's teachings being good or rational or true. But it's like it makes a lot of sense to be a Christian for a social net. If you can fit, if you're not gay, if you're not, don't ask too many questions. Yeah. It can be really wonderful to be any religion, basically,
Right.
not just Christianity.
No, I 100% agree. Part of the reason why I still go to my church is my community. It's the people that I do life with that are bearable, the ones that I can bear to be around, and I can choose that, if that makes sense to you. So I don't have to be best friends with someone over here that says this is specifically like this, but I'm not going to hide who I am as a Christian. I'm like, I was really scared to come out with this podcast and see what how my church was going to perceive me being friends with her. And they've never talked bad about it before, but
who could talk bad about Cassidy?
no, but atheism, it's kind of a, oh no.
You
Anyways,
would actually be surprised when we, post episodes or clips from stuff, the amount of, I kind of expected people to come after me. And we live in the Bible Belt. We live in a very traditional area, and I
can see them going after her for
a lot. Tons
they're
of
not
people.
angry because you've lost your religion. They're angry because you've lost their religion.
Yes, there's so many people saying, "Well, you're not Christianing right," and I'm like,
I'm dangerous. I'm a dangerous Christian who's
slippery slope.
It's super.
They're
go for
like,
it. Whatever.
They've written me off as lost to darkness, which cool, I guess, but.
Yeah,
but
they're mad at her, which I'm like, what?
I'm not coming for your children. I'm talking to adults, and if you can't
that's the atheist who eats children. Come on, no, I'm just kidding.
No, come on. I'm sure they're not mad at Aubrey. I'm sure they're just very, very concerned for her well-being.
That's right.
No, they're coming after me.
The wrong friends will ruin you, Aubrey.
Yes.
Oh yeah. But it's like, I'm like, if you're an adult and you can have if you're of sound mind, because that's important too. You can have these thoughts and you can decide what works for you and what doesn't. So that's same, we're having conversations between the two of you, and I'm listening to this and being like, the thoughts that I would have had 3 years ago, because I did a lot of deconstructing myself, I would have been like, this is of the devil. I'm in dangerous territory where I'm like, I'm not scared of y'all's opinions. No. It's not scary to me. It was, and it could be if I let it be. I don't give power to stuff that doesn't have meaning to me. And and I don't mean that in a bad way. Just like my Bible doesn't have meaning to you guys the way it does to me.
Right.
It's okay.
Right. Not that it doesn't have meaning. Not that we don't love to dig into it.
The same way. Well, the meanings to me, what I grab, what I choose to grab, because I don't grab all of that, is not necessarily the same. But we did get to bond over that Bible verse because it's so beautiful. There are beautiful things in the Bible. Yeah. And there's really shitty things in the Bible where we're huh?
Oh, I gotta tell you.
Tell me.
I was in San Francisco in a bookstore one time. This is years ago. And there was a book in the religion section called The Positive Bible. Whoa, that's weird. And it was all the good parts of the Bible. Oh. And my first thought was, wow, this is a lot thinner than my Bible.
Yeah, I got to find that.
Is there a negative Bible somewhere that's just all the shitty parts?
Yeah, so my husband Frank got on Amazon and found the Gay Bible, which... Is it called the Gay Bible?
Oh, I forget.
It's not in here. It's in my room. Anyways, and it's got a rainbow cross on it, and it's basically they took out gay Bible verse or the homosexual Bible verse.
They've gone through and all the instances that are
highlighted.
Basically, all the instances that are traditionally used to denounce homosexuality or anything but straight white man. They have taken it out or rewritten it in a
to where it's
or inclusive. Yeah.
And it says the whole thing where the Bible was mistranslated in the 40s. Was it 40?
Right.
42?
Oh, it's been
3?
Since, all along, all through the
years.
Let's see.
I mean, honestly, this is true. No single text of any. Well, at least for the New Testament, I presume it's the same with the Old Testament.
I would guess.
But no single text matches up any other text 100%. And mostly it's just because of spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes. That's not special. It's when they deliberately twist things to say the opposite, and we don't know what the original read. And that's, even devout Bible-believing scholars can't agree on that.
Yeah, I can't stand behind that as a Christian and a person who believes in God, and I'm like, why would you? Why would you be okay with this? And it's that's where the reason I call myself a Christian is because I do have the feeling of the Holy Spirit and the higher power situation, having conversations with God. And that's where I've been led to be who I am today. And
Sure.
it's like, there's so many things that's happened in my life that I looked back and was like, well, God had a hand on this. But it's funny. I want to tell you a story that happened recently.
Tell us a story.
And it's like, you're going to laugh.
Okay.
We
I'm sorry.
promise we won't.
Oh,
We
no,
won't.
it's good. It's good. So I lit my backyard on fire.
Yes.
I lit my backyard on fire.
It's bad.
I saw that.
It's bad.
I saw that on your. Yes, I
Yes.
saw that. Holy crap!
So
That could have been so bad.
it was so
It
bad.
but it could- yeah.
It was a 5-minute situation that I was like, okay, I had a really bad childhood in my opinion, and
Yeah.
my parents will hear this and be like, no, you didn't. Yes, I did. Anyways, so you'll see. Listen, anyways, all the things. I'm in therapy. I had a childhood that was an issue.
Go to therapy.
I've
Everybody
never.
go to therapy.
I've
Yes.
never in my life been like, I don't want to be an adult right now. Never in my life as an adult been like, I want to be a kid again.
Oh, no.
Never. In that moment, I was like, I don't want to do this. This isn't for me.
Oh, no.
I don't want to
Oh,
be in
man.
charge.
Oh,
There's children everywhere. There was like
there were
six
so many kids. There's a
Oh, it
fire
could have been so bad.
was
spreading all
insane.
through the backyard and the neighbor's backyard and into
my
maybe
goodness.
another neighbor's backyard. And there's 50
Oh, it could have been
kids
so
running
bad.
around
We had-
trying to help. And it's like,
And I'm like, praise God that we have brick houses
Yes.
because and our air conditioner, and it was going towards our gas cans for
Oh
the
my gosh.
lawnmower, and nothing blew up. Anyways, so
know
let's
that.
go.
When that happens to me, we call those atheist miracles.
I just call it the wind blew in the right direction today. Oh my God.
Or we just really made a good decision. So, anyways,
Yeah.
so I remember the situation happening. It was a bleep show, 100%.
Yeah.
Long
Yeah.
story short, I put something in my fire pit. The wind gust hit. My grass is
Yeah.
tall and it's dry, no green. It's winter. Well, it's early spring, whatever. Lit
Yeah.
a little piece of grass, and then next thing you know,
Whole
it's an
yard.
infirmary, and we were literally
Whoa.
like 5 minutes, and my whole backyard was burned, and my next door neighbor's house was burned because we share a
You gotta
backyard.
post the pictures because those blew my
It's-
mind.
We will
Yeah.
probably have already heard about it because we're going to talk about it
Yeah.
in another episode. But I remember getting away from that. I had to take a shower because I had soot everywhere, all over my face, all over my like pants, my feet. I'm taking a shower, and I was like, God didn't allow that fire to start. This had nothing to do with God. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Christians, don't freak out. Because
Hold on.
Because hold on.
Breathe. Stay with her. Stay with her.
Holy Spirit's here, I swear. So there's a good part of this. It was just, why do bad things happen to good people? Or why does God allow certain things to happen, like cancer in children? My own daughter has a heart defect and had to have heart surgery. It's like my God didn't create my child and say, here, I'm going to like purposefully do something. This is just how our bodies happen through science. Like this is part of the universe and how it works. But God does play a part in everything. But I'm not over here like, God let this fire happen to show me some kind of lesson. No, I did learn quite a lot. But God was with me. God kept me like calm when I needed to be calm and led me to go to get the hose going. But I also was very capable of doing it myself. But I was like thinking how funny it is in that moment because of all the deconstruction I did. I would have been like, why would you let that happen to me, God, and get angry at God for that? Why would you let my kids be in a situation where there's danger like that? Or where were your angels to help me? No, I felt like I was okay. I didn't feel like anybody was. I remember thinking this could have gotten really bad. This could have been a different story. And I thank God that it wasn't. So, sorry,
Right.
go ahead.
Or thank Aubrey because I'm just putting it out there. It's also possible that you did everything that you did through the power of Aubrey, who compelled you to do it.
Which I love that you say that. Thank
And,
you. I'm cocky enough
and
to
I'm
I
super proud of
receive
you.
that. I receive
super
it.
proud of
That's
you.
one of the things that was really lovely when I left religion in my life was I started being allowed to give myself credit for
Right.
doing the right thing and for making good decisions. It's a very common thing in Christianity to talk about, or in religion, I should say, in general, I'm sure,
Right.
to talk about like, oh, I'm really, my kids, they're healthy and they're smart and they're kind people and that's God. No, I did that. Are you nuts? I sat here and carried them and raised them and taught them everything they know is because of me and, friends and family. And so,
that just doesn't happen.
I am now allowed to give myself credit for the things that I do right. My kids are great because I'm killing it at being a mom. I'm doing my best, and it's wearing off on them. And
I definitely agree that that's the case.
And, the flip side of that too. The flip side of that is it gives you permission to be human and fallible. And when you do screw up, it's not like, oh, I didn't make baby Jesus cry. It's just it just happened.
Well, I made a mistake, and now I have the wherewithal to learn from it and fix it. It wasn't Satan taking over my body, and it wasn't my entire salvation isn't ruined in this one instance that I messed up. I can fix it. It's okay.
Oh my gosh, I'm about to get preachy on you guys. That's not how that works, though.
That's how I was
salvation is not a question.
I think this may be Church of Aubrey
situation.
This may be Church of Aubrey.
Grace, guys, Grace. I named my kid Grace. Okay, so my oldest daughter, Sharon Grace. So Grace is a gift given to you, and you can't lose it. So there's a grace there. I love you guys. Sorry, it just is that's where I'm like. Anyways,
maybe Mormonism is different.
But you're taught about
the
grace.
funny thing about this is, even when we disagree, the fact that you're coming at it from a place of love is so obvious and so wonderful. How can you be upset about that?
Yeah, and that's where it's like, don't get it twisted. People out there that have been told by pastors, like really crappy theology, like you're going to hell. Like, I'm sick of being preached to like I'm in prison and I've been doing, like I killed somebody. Me like stubbing my toe and saying, oh shit, I'm okay. I'm good. Like, I'm not, I'm tired of feeling.
The universe is massive.
Yeah.
God has bigger things to worry about.
Right.
Totally.
Things that these funny monkeys are doing on this little speck here.
Yeah, exactly.
And so at the end of the day, I don't think the Christian God is 100% properly, like, we can't understand who God is. And saying he is so silly. That's not who God is. And I can't stop saying he because it's part of like my indoctrination.
Like, does God have a penis?
No.
Then why are we calling him he?
Why are we? And we're made in the image of God. He and she made in the image of God. And then like, God's both, baby.
God said they and a them.
And another thing I have a hard time with, it's like these farmhouse preachers. I call them farmhouse. That might not be a good term. These down country preachers who did not go to seminary. They just read the Bible. And then they're preaching to these people that, and this isn't like a bad thing, that don't have a higher education or the opportunity to have a higher education. They're working the farm, they're working the land, or they're doing whatever, like, and they don't have that ability to be exposed to anything else. And so here they are hearing this guy and saying, this is the way. And like generation after generation is happening, coming from this situation. And it's like, this is a problem.
They did a study of like snake handlers in Appalachia, those snake handler churches. And one of the things, it is crazy, but one of the most interesting things for me was that the pastors would, they'd be preaching and they'd be saying Bible verses that aren't in the Bible. They just said it in a King Jamesy voice, and whatever they said made perfect sense.
It's sort of the way you were explaining your own experience, that you were willing to put your reputation or your, speak truth to something that you didn't know was actually true. You've just been told it over and over.
Yeah, and you think it's true, and you're supposed to believe this because you're not allowed to question it or say
it's bad if you don't believe it. You better believe it.
Because you'll go to hell and you'll burn forever. That's crazy.
And if you believe the wrong thing, that's bad, bad.
Or
that's one thing as an atheist that drives me crazy. It's like, oh, you can't do yoga or whatever because that's really worshiping Satan.
Yeah,
but all these churches, they're worshiping God the wrong way, but apparently it's so easy to worship Satan.
Nobody has seen like
it's
posters.
stressing me out.
I always like to see. There was one I saw recently. It was like a poster of one of these sort of like Westboro Baptist or whatever people that had posters of all the people who were wrong, and some of them were obvious, like fornicators and adulterers,
whoremongers,
or drug dealers, and all that. But some of them were just like, one of them. It was this whole long list, and they were obviously people who are like less religious going in afterwards and being like, I got 32. What did y'all get? Like, and just all kinds of stuff.
Funny.
Some of it was like TV watchers and like crazy stuff.
Video gamers.
Yes, yeah.
D&D players.
Yeah, D&D was on there, and it was hilarious to read.
I'm having so much fun. I feel like we could talk about a million things.
I know.
So you do research on all different types of religion, right?
Yeah.
Do a lot of them have a place like hell, like where something like that, or is this a Christian-based situation?
It's interesting. I mean, there's no simple answer to that, but if we're just talking about Judeo-Christianity, that started through the ancient Israelites. There was no place like heaven and hell. Mm-hmm. Everybody went to Sheol, the same gloomy underworld, and that was common in a lot of things. Like the Greeks had the same idea too. That you just go underground and it's not very interesting, and you just kind of hang out, and everybody does it, Mm-hmm. But it wasn't until Persia and Babylon, Zoroastrianism, that religion, they had a good place and a bad place, and and that's where the idea of sheep and the goats getting split into, you if you do the right things, you go here, you go there, and so that evolution of that is fascinating to me too.
Same, because I'm like,
funny thing about evolution, as soon as I stopped becoming a Christian, it's like I had been a creationist all the way up.
Jeez,
I didn't think about it. It was like, of course evolution is true. It's like,
gosh.
It was like that dam of, no, it's not.
Wait, hold up. What did you believe? Did you believe that the earth was only 6,000 years old?
No, I was never a young earth creationist because that would be silly. But I was very certain that it was funny because there was a real cognitive dissonance because I loved dinosaurs. Yeah. And dinosaurs apparently were millions of years old.
Yeah.
But then I'd get in the whole thing, maybe the Old Testament, when it's talking about behemoth, it's really talking about brontosauruses or things like that. That kind of thing. Yeah. But once I became an atheist, all of a sudden, of course, evolution is true. So it made so much sense. And studying religion, especially Christianity, or any of them really, through an evolutionary lens is what my next book is going to be about. This whole thing.
I'm loving all these books.
And it's so cool to see how these ideas that we think of are like part and parcel of Christianity or whatever. You go back a little ways. Oh, it wasn't there then. No, that came lit.
Oh, jeez. How embarrassing.
Seeing the development of these things. Yeah.
I'm embarrassed.
Yes. The evolution of blasphemy. Yeah.
I just think it's interesting, sort of talking about the evolution and all that. You go back to prehistoric times and these people who are looking at the world around them and who didn't have the science to explain it. And so they're doing things like they see an eclipse and they think, something up there is happening. Yeah. We got to figure it out. And,
Or fire. They see fire and it's like, is this alive? Is it?
Oh, it is. And it is. I can see where it comes that way. And it can be good and bad.
It can be good. It can warm your dinner or it can burn.
It can burn your yard.
And it does not care.
And how about dreams?
Yes.
Dreams, Uncle Fag appeared to me, the And,
why does
I know he's dead? I saw that saber-tooth tiger eat him. Yeah, he was telling me.
Right. Why does me, a young healthy person, get the same sickness and live, but my old mother who gets it dies? And as somebody who doesn't understand medicine and biology and the way that works, you can easily see where supernatural and paranormal or whatever plays into that.
I can't wait for you guys to read my book because I talk about all this stuff. And even talk about like before we were human, animals, just some of the things, just by being social animals, we have these evolutionary survival mechanisms that get co-opted into religion.
It's true. I have a dog and a cat, and there's a lot of things that they do, the two of them, that are absolute opposites because dogs do things one way. Evolutionary, that's how they've come down from wolves into whatever. And he's kind of stupid, but...
Yeah.
Just kidding. He's sweet. He's so smart.
He's stupid and sweet, but he's a puppy. He'll figure it out.
Then my cat does things differently because cats are a different type of, and so through thousands of years of the way they've evolved, even just their personalities, and so we've done the same thing with life in general. So
I want to hear a funny story.
Fascinating
about a conversation I had with an older person about evolution.
Oh dear.
I can't wait to hear this.
Because I believe in evolution.
Yeah.
It's clear. I believe God created it.
So are you like the type of person who believes God pushed the button and then allowed that?
Like, I've heard that.
Yeah.
I'm over here like, I can't tell you anything about God and the things that God did. I just believe God played a part in it.
It's a very safe answer. You're not wrong.
I'm not wrong. You're welcome. No, I literally can't tell you what God did. I can tell you what I did. I started a fire and it made wind happen, and that was me doing something not smart. But anyways,
Science.
yeah,
Yep.
Science.
Okay, tell us your evolution
Tell us a
conversation.
story.
We're having a conversation. Evolution's clearly like a thing, and she's like, surely you don't think we came from apes? And I was like, no, we're cousins. We're cousins.
Oh, nice. Nice.
It's
Nice.
No, I didn't think that, one day a human was born from an ape. Absolutely not. Because that's not scientific. That's not what we're saying.
Yeah.
When we say evolution, it sounds so scary. It's not. It's okay.
Yeah.
Everyone's so scared.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, if we had a 1-page and an 8x10 headshot of all our ancestors, by about page 1,000 or so, we wouldn't be looking at human beings anymore.
Yeah.
And if you flip through like page 1,000,000, it blows my mind. You can see a lizard, and that could be your direct ancestor.
And and that sounds wonky because we don't understand it. If it's not like some people just don't understand it, and they think, what the heck?
Well, they're encouraged not to
And
understand.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's
I have a
super
quote in my book about Jesus saying, it's very hard to get a man to accept something when his paycheck depends on him not understanding something.
Yeah.
True.
There you go. Well said.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my evolution story. It makes
There you
me
go.
laugh. I'm like, surely we didn't come from ape.
Yeah, I do. There you go. Just leave it at that. Yes.
Who
Long
was
story
standing?
short, yes.
I do. Yeah, I do.
But
Go ahead.
it wasn't a process of, one day where just humans came out of a monkey or an ape. But like a chimpanzee didn't have a human. I think
Clearly,
that's what people
it was
think.
a magical garden with sacred fruit and a talking snake. I mean,
Yes.
obviously,
Yes, exactly. Which makes more
it's
sense.
just- they're garbage.
I don't know.
That's
You could go
another-
the Mormon route and say that all happened. Both of them happened, but it all happened in Missouri.
Yeah. I forgot. I also write science fiction, and I've got a series called Time Shards. You just reminded me that in book 3, there's a Mormon who comes from. Do you know who Porter Rockwell is?
Oh yes, I love Porter Rock. He's
in
again.
the book. He's in the book.
Oh,
Yeah.
good stuff. Porter Rockwell was early days of the Mormon Church, like the biggest badass you could think of. He was like he wasn't Mormon.
Gunslinger.
Yes,
He was a Mormon gunslinger.
Gunslinger, hitman, assassin.
Okay.
He owned his own saloon when he wasn't allowed to drink, and had all these.
Yeah.
There's all these crazy wild stories
Wow.
about him. He's like a
Yeah.
folk hero almost
Yeah.
of Mormonism.
Okay.
There's a bunch in Utah. If you go to Utah, there is a lot of breweries and stuff that have a porter blend, or they all call them they have tons of beers named after Porter Rockwell. It's so
That's
fun.
too funny.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you, and this is something that I think a lot of Christians have misconceptions about atheists and what they think and what their goals are and whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that my goal as an atheist is to bring down religion all around me and make sure everybody becomes a Satan worshiper or something crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I wanted to ask you, because this is something that I find interesting. After studying religion and histories of religions and all that, what good and what bad is in religion?
Oh,
Both.
so much of both.
Yeah.
So much of both. And I really make that clear in the book I'm writing on evolution of religion. Whether it's a religion of peace or a religion of war depends entirely on the circumstances, and every religion has verses that can flip that switch back and forth. And they do repeatedly throughout history. But it is interesting to see, for instance, every one of us would have been burned at the stake 500 years ago for what we said. You know?
Oh, yeah. I'm still, it's still up in the air over here.
Right?
They might come get me.
Yeah, I was going to say, and maybe even 100 years ago, maybe even less than that, you would have like lost your job and not, you know, they take your kids away from you for saying the things that you, Aubrey, as a Christian, are saying.
Yeah, sad.
So it's fascinating to see the evolution of religions and see that tension between humanism and religion. We'll just call it religion for starters, depending on belief, you know.
Right. Yeah.
What's something good about Christianity that you still see?
I think there's a lot of lovely things we can find in most religions.
Yeah.
And Christianity is such a huge enchilada of all these different things.
Yes.
If there was no religion except Christianity, we would still have enough to have religious wars of people hating each other and burning each other.
Huge umbrella.
Yeah, absolutely. So I try not to lump everything into one big category. But anything that makes somebody question, makes them curious about the universe, makes them reach out to other people out of love, that's, I think, the best thing that can come out of civilization. Yeah. Whether it's the religion that prompted that or something higher than that, you know.
I agree.
A thing I like to say is like, we don't need bad reasons to be good. There's already good reasons to be good.
I like that.
So, yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord.
Am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth?
Oh my God. We're speaking Bible talk. Okay. The last question I love to ask all our guests is, where do you think we go when we die?
I think we go exactly where we came from before we were born.
Which is? Because there's different views on that.
Well, it's like, I mean, there's so many views about, I'm not talking reincarnation. I'm talking, before we existed, we were perfectly fine. After we exist, we'll be perfectly fine. That's
like we're floating somewhere or nothing?
Nope. It's just like these cells came together and became us, and now we're rocking, and it's great. And then one day they'll stop in some way. Yeah. And there won't be any more. And to be fair, everything in the universe goes to the same thing. It's just the universe. We've got about 3 trillion years, the stars being shining, and then they'll go wink out too, and there will be nothing. And it's like, but that's not the important thing. The important thing is what happens in the middle. Exactly. It's the now.
I have similar views. I think that's it. We're done. When you die, you're dead, and that's the end. And I know a lot of people.
Saying, nothing lasts forever, and it's a beautiful thing. It's you know.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is.
Well, here's the thing. I think I mentioned this when we first were vetting me out to make sure I wasn't a weirdo.
Yeah. And I'm glad you're not.
They said, I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of not living.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you only get one life and you need to live it. And if this is it, I don't want this to just be, I'm preparing for my eternity in heaven. It's like, okay, but do really cool shit while you're here too.
Yeah.
Bingo. Bingo.
And like love people without abandon. Just, I don't know. There's just something we can freely give when we are like, what if this is it?
People ask me, oh, what if you're wrong? And I'm like, well, then I'll be wrong. And I'll figure it out. If
I don't think you're going to hell if you're wrong.
If I live my life as a good person to the best of my abilities and I die and I'm absolutely wrong and the Christian God is the way it is, then if he is who he says he is, he'll sort it out. And if he's not, if he's not willing to look at me who did my best and is a good person and figure it out, then maybe I don't want to go there anyway.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. And to be fair, it's not like we don't have reasons to think there's not a God or any God or goddesses or never have.
Exactly.
You know, there would be a lot of things that have to be explained before I could even go there. It's like,
Okay. Yeah. So we want to hear more about what you have coming up. Like you said, you've been working on a book. Can you tell us, is that something that's in the near future that will be dropping?
Knock on wood, hopefully. Well, the most recent thing that came out was my science fiction trilogy. It's called Time Shards. 3 books, time travel, a lot of history. It's super fun, interesting characters.
I might read it.
Aubrey might even read it. She might even let. And I think actually Christians and atheists will get different things out of it because there's Christian and there's not really atheist characters, but there's definitely Christians and Jews and Muslims and
that's cool.
Pagans and whatnot, and the way they interact with each other is really fun and interesting.
Yeah. Interesting.
I love that. So, as far as your sex book,
what's that one called?
Violence in the Bible is the working title. I might call it Sex and Violence and Weirdness in the Bible.
Okay.
And I just need to hunker down and get that done. But before I do that, I really want to bang out this quick book on evolution of religions and see if I can't make that done this year.
Yeah.
So hopefully this year all this will happen, but we'll see.
This is your push to do it.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Yeah.
Do you have like a website that's just for you, or where's the best place for people to follow you, to get a hold of you, to follow all the progress of these books? And
what a perfect, wonderful question. Thank you for asking it. Yeah. So I do have a website called davidfitzgerald.org.
Okay.
And a lot of people just find me on Facebook.
Yeah. All right, awesome.
And you can also shoot me an email at everybodylovesdave@gmail.com.
And we will definitely put the link to those in like our description of our episode. That way people can get a quick click to get to you and get all your stuff.
And to hear your point of view as an atheist was so interesting and intriguing and fun. And I hope other Christians can see it the same way.
Yeah.
And atheists get to have some kind of like validation there. Because I loved watching the two of you go back and forth. So, yeah.
And honestly, if any of your listeners have any questions for me or just think I got it wrong and want to educate me, I always want to be less wrong. So I'm happy to hear from people.
Yeah.
Educate you. Okay.
Yeah. And honestly, this was such a joy. I love what you guys are doing. This is fantastic. And I can't wait to come on again anytime you want me.
Yay.
We'll definitely write that down.
Yes.
We'll hold you to it. So
we're thrilled.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Bye.